Robinson playing the point, and for Seattle, Jewel Lloyd getting healthy again and looking like the Jewel Lloyd we're used to seeing.
Which is very important because there needs to be a consistent complement to Natasha Howard.
Lloyd had ankle issues and missed some time, and right away Dantes throws it out of bounds, trying to get it into Sylvia Fowles. They were working on that during a shoot-around this morning, but that time they could not connect. Minnesota had a 5-game winning streak snapped with the loss in Los Angeles on Sunday, and Howard airballs it. Ball goes back over to the Lynx. Both of these teams finished with identical 18-16 records, but it was Minnesota losing in LA and Seattle winning in Dallas on the final day of the regular season that gave the Storm the tiebreaker and thus this home game. Fowles working against Mercedes Russell, who has seen her numbers skyrocket this year. Sylvia Fowles bounces one in.
And what's important about that shot for Sylvia Fowles is she attacked the double team. You saw a little bit of sagging, but she was not hesitant.
Outside shot nailed by Jordan Canada, who has seen her numbers increase. Backed up Sue Bird last year. Bird missing all of this year with a knee injury. And Canada has responded. Dantes with the nice turnaround. And boy, Dantes has been a difference maker on this Lynx team.
And she'll need to be the same thing tonight. And it's not just about scoring. Dantes is a facilitator on the offensive end. She's an outstanding passer.
Jewel Lloyd swishes home the three. And this is a Seattle team that has relied more and more on the three as the season has progressed. Last couple of months, a third of their points come from beyond the arc. Fowles gets inside. Can't hit. Robinson tried to get it back over, but Clark, who's a very good defensive player, picked it off. Lloyd, back-to-back threes. Yes! Seattle with 3 threes. And Alicia Clark is limping. Cheryl Flores has a call and a foul against Minnesota. Flores joined by Roy Gobain and Billy Smith this evening. Alicia Clark, second-team all-defensive performer this year for a Seattle team that leads the league in fewest points given up per game. Dantes was called for that foul for Minnesota.
And despite hitting that outside shot early, you see Minnesota's defense is still sagging off Canada. She's extremely quick off of the bounce. They're more concerned about what she can do in the paint.
Dantes misses from the outside. Russell beats Fowles to the board. Jordan Canada only hitting 39% of her shots this year and only 19% from three, but she's already hit one this evening. Called on and is, I mean, those tough shoes to fill when Sue Bird being out.
Very tough, and we've seen a lot of growth from her. When we spoke to her early in the season, she said it really had a lot to do with going overseas. That's where a lot of WNBA players are able to mature, get reps. Beautiful pass there by Jewel Lloyd.
Finding Russell streaking to the basket as Lloyd attracted the double team, and a timeout is taken. Seattle blazing out to an 11-4 run, an 8-0 run. Sue Bird's not playing, but her team is up big early. Two of the stars of the respective teams, Sylvia Fowles and Natasha Howard. You see their numbers. Howard blistered Minnesota with a career-high 33 points last time they played, and moments ago she spoke with our Kim Adams.
Natasha, earlier today you were named the Defensive Player of the Year. What did it mean to get that honor?
Well, it's a blessing. Couldn't do it without my teammates and the Seattle organization as well. It's just all the hard work that I put in.
How did your team get off to such a hot start from behind the arc so far?
Defense. We just reading the defense, and we just taking what the defense giving us.
Thank you, Natasha.
Seattle with 3 threes and 5 attempts. And they lead this 11-4. Minnesota has taken 4 shots and has turned the ball over 3 times. They do commit the most turnovers in the WNBA, and Fowles misses one she usually would hit. Early substitution is Canada misses one. Both teams actually sticking with their starting fives. Howard with the miss. Dantes comes up with the rebound.
You notice that early in this game, Seattle is having success in early offense. They want to attack Minnesota's transition offense and not let them get set, because Minnesota is really tough to score on once they can get their matchup set.
And now Cheryl Reeves going to make her first move. Foul's going to come out of the game. Temi Fagbenle, excuse me, will be coming in. And when we talked to Coach Reeve earlier, she talked about having a sort of a short leash, and she would pull people out if they were not performing. Fagbenle will come in at the next whistle. Russell! That's a little fancy pass to Canada, who usually is the fancy passer.
Beautiful read, and Mercedes Russell has improved in every aspect of the game. She had to come in and be ready to go with the losses on the roster for Seattle, and she has had some big moments, some important moments for this team. This is just a fantastic read, and Seattle's a team that likes to move on the offensive end, so when you cut, they find each other. They're a very good passing team, and Mercedes is skilled. She's big, got size, but she also has a face-up game and can find her teammates when needed.
Averaged only about 5.5 minutes per game last year. Brianna Stewart out with the hurt Achilles. There's the rookie, Nafisa Collier, with the three.
And the three-point shot will be important to Minnesota tonight because they have to create spacing for Sylvia Fowles. They did not do that in their last game against LA.
Back-to-back assists for Russell. Dantes over the Defensive Player of the Year. Howard calmly nailed the two. Years with Atlanta last year, went out with a bad ankle in the summer, ended her season early. Jewel Lloyd is on fire from three. She's hit 3 of them today, 3 for 3, over 56% from distance in her last 7 games. She is back. Back-to-back for Dantes, who coolly gets her 5th and 6 points of the night.
And Damaris Dantes gave Minnesota another aspect of their offense, stretching the floor, and Minnesota is not doing a good job communicating in defensive transition, finding shooters. They have got to be sharper and show more pressure on that end of the floor.
And Seattle is shredding their defense. Collier wants it, and then Lloyd snuck in and stole it. Seattle leads the league in steals. Jewel Lloyd with her first miss of the night.
Heat check, Pam. I don't blame her.
Benley, who just came in for fouls, gets the basket. Temi in her 3rd year out of USC. Played with England in the Eurobasket. So she missed quite a few games this year. And they go again. They are just waltzing down the lane to get buckets.
Not a lot of pressure on the pass there, and again, when the ball moves and when players move, slow to react there. Temi Fagbenle, she couldn't really see the basketball because she had her back turned. But great awareness. Mercedes Russell really starting off the playoffs well.
Fagbenle picked up the foul. 3-point play for Russell as Simone Augustus has entered the game. There she is with the basketball in her hands. Augustus had a scope on her right knee the end of May and did not make her debut until August 6th this season. And that's just Seattle basketball hounding the ball handlers. Shot clock at 5 and a foul on Howard. Cheryl Flores with the call. That is the 2nd on Howard. Career highs for Howard this year in scoring, rebounding, double-doubles, and the Defensive Player of the Year as well, but she's got 2 fouls already.
On the last few trips down the floor, Minnesota has had success with Dantes at the top of the key, finding her own shot.
And now this is the YouTube TV Try It free throw. Watch WNBA games and 70-plus live channels when you try YouTube TV for free at tvyoutube.com. Dantes, she has been the one member of this Minnesota Lynx team that has delivered.
And part of it is because she doesn't get sped up. Seattle's a team that wants to speed you up and make you play fast. And Dantes, very methodical in the way she plays the game, and it's hard to make her make mistakes.
Dantes with 8 points. Lexi Brown also is in for Minnesota. Sherreeve trying to find a combination that works. Jordan Canada can't get it to go. And now Simone Augustus drives all the way and puts it in.
Simone is a calming factor for this team. Not quite where she wants to be health-wise, but feeling better than she was earlier in the season. She's a veteran that knows how to stop a run.
Lloyd has missed a couple in a row now. Collier comes up with the rebound. Collier 15th in the league in rebounds. Top rebounding rookie. Brown.
See the quicker rotation defensively by Clark to get out on Dantes.
And that was a terrific play by Collier to sneak in the follow.
And offensive rebounds will be there because Seattle's defense likes to flood to the basketball. So Minnesota's got to go to the glass.
Crystal Langhorne in the game, working against Dantes, and that's one thing that Crystal sometimes can take too many steps. She did that time. Simone Augustus in her 14th year out of LSU.
Well, she's been in the battles, and she understands how important it is to be aggressive against a pressure defense like Seattle's. No one picks her up. And that patent floater from Simone.
She's done so much. Look at those accolades. Plus, she has 3 gold medals as a member of the U.S. national team. Fouls back in the game, and another turnover. They keep trying to get it in to Sill. That's 5 turnovers now for the Lynx.
And Mercedes Russell has been disruptive. She's having a very good start on both ends.
One of the few players who can look Sill eye to eye in this league. Clark with the miss, but then almost got to it.
Your hopes, if you're Minnesota, is that you can establish Sylvia fouls and draw a double team, which will create ball movement. But Mercedes Russell has been able to handle her one-on-one in the post. I mean, she's just bodying her from the back. Sil fumbled the ball a little bit there, but she is there and established and really making Sylvia have to second-guess what she's doing.
Minnesota with another entry pass into the post that is deflected. Courtney Paris in the game. Both coaches using their benches in the first quarter. Underneath, Langhorne finishes.
Good find on the mismatch. Lexi Brown giving up size and good high-low look.
Minnesota just down 6. Then the winner will play Las Vegas Sunday evening in the desert. And they get Langhorne for trying to defend Collier.
Good find here. I mean, just keeping the ball high, and Courtney Paris sees a mismatch. Lexi Brown giving up inches to Langhorne, and credit Langhorne for getting position.
Langhorne, a wily veteran herself, her 12th year in the league. Brown able to knife her way in to get her first basket. Now on the other end, that quickly, Jordan Canada, one of the fastest players in the league.
The tempo that she can play with on the offensive end, and even her defensive prowess, creates speed. And there's nothing you can do about that. When she turns the corner, one thing Seattle's trying to do is get into their offense quickly. And Canada's the player to do it.
Each team has a foul to give as we go under 47 seconds left to go. Canada's numbers impressive this year as a starting point guard. Smothering defense by the Storm. Collier took an extra step. Good defense that time by Langhorne, but everybody else preventing a pass.
And Pam, coming into the season with no Sue Bird, with no Brianna Stewart, Seattle had to reestablish their identity, and they decided to hang their hat on the defensive end. Coach Kloppenberg, one of the best, and he has really got them buying into what they can do with their pressure using their quickness.
Klopp, along with Noel Quinn, the assistants to Dan Hughes. Sammy Whitcomb over to Canada, left open, decided to drive The ball did not get to Paris, but it came right back to Canada. Augustus and Minnesota can take the last shot of the quarter. Paris grabs the rebound, and what a quarter it was for Seattle. 29 points, 11 apiece for Lloyd and Canada. It's an 8-point lead for Seattle after one.
The WNBA Playoffs 2019 is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing. That's our thing. And Taco Bell's $5 Triple-Double Crunch Wrap Box.
Welcome back to Everett, Washington, joined by Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeve. Coach, what about your defensive execution made you unhappy there?
All of it, every bit of it. The entire first quarter.
And how can you settle in offensively and limit those turnovers?
Get stops.
Thank you, Coach.
Well, when you're looking at the 29 points that Seattle scored in that first quarter, 12 were from three-pointers, right? Most of them not contested. And then 7 points off turnovers. And those are things that Minnesota can fix.
Sammy Whitcomb gets into the three-point party. And also Minnesota, their starting guards, Danielle Robinson, who is back in the game, and Odyssey Sims, they did not score. The guards outscoring them 22-0 for Seattle in that first quarter. Minnesota also had 7 turnovers. It was not pretty. Both teams shot 60%, but the three is a big difference for Seattle. Mosqueda Lewis got hit! And a chance.
We are witnessing the key to Seattle's success this year, and it's their chemistry, the way they move and read. And that's just a beautiful look there by Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis with ensuing defense. I mean, there was a hand coming towards her face.
Stephanie Talbot called for the foul, and Roy Gobin now is overlooking at the monitor to determine whether the shot made by Mosqueda-Lewis was a 2 or a 3. But Seattle is just on fire from beyond the arc.
And Seattle is a selfless screening team. They will sacrifice their bodies to set screens, to get each other open. That's the benefit of not really having huge star power sometimes, right? Like, if you have a Sue Bird or a Brianna Stewart, you're looking for those players. But they're looking for each other equally, and that is a 2-point shot, as we see there from the replay.
It sure is. So a chance for a 3-point play for Mosqueda-Lewis. She is 14 for 14 from the line this season. Make it 15 for 15. And Seattle gets out to a 13-point advantage. Seattle with 14 field goals, 10 assists on those field goals, and just 1 turnover. Meanwhile, Minnesota keeps giving it away to the folks in the yellow jerseys. That's their 8th giveaway. Collier trying to make something happen, but it stays with Seattle. Don't miss your chance to catch your favorite players, teams, and the continuing WNBA playoffs action in person. Get your ticket today at WNBA.com/tickets. Games coming up Sunday in both Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Chicago goes to Vegas, and the winner of this game plays the Sparks, who are playing some really good basketball now.
How impressive was Chicago, going on a huge run in the second half. Big shot there from Lexi Brown, but Diamond DeShields, quite the debut.
25 points for DeShields, 11 assists for Courtney Vandersloot, who averaged 9. That's a new record for a WNBA player. And Sylvia Fowles just doesn't look like Syl right now. That's Syl. But she's missed some shots that she usually makes in the paint. She's fumbled some passes she usually grabs.
Yeah, normally when she gets 2 feet in the paint, it's a bucket, and that has not been the case tonight.
Yeah, 3rd straight year that Sylvia has led the league in field goal percentage. Her team down by 9 as a timeout is taken in Everett. Welcome back, Seattle, making a living off threes so far, LaChina.
Yeah, I mean, great passing, sharing of the basketball by Seattle, setting screens, and really in transition, getting those early looks from the three-point line. Jewel Lloyd wide open. There just hasn't been enough energy behind the closeout by the Minnesota Lynx on that end of the floor.
And Jewel Lloyd and Jordan Canada, what a backcourt. They have combined. It was 11 apiece in the first quarter for them.
Yeah, I mean, they were on attack mode, and that's what Dan Hughes wanted to see on offense, is for them to use some speed and pace, but to be aggressive in their attack. And they've done that.
They certainly have. Seattle as a team, 5 of 7 from beyond the arc. Canada and Lloyd both getting rest at the same time. Meanwhile, Odyssey Sims, who's Minnesota's leading scorer, she's not out there. She's not taking a shot in this game.
And Jordan Canada has had a lot to do with that. I mean, she started off on Odyssey Sims and is great when denying.
Nobody in a blue jersey anywhere near the ball as it came off the rim. Javonte Zealous can't get it, fouls. Able to get inside position on Russell. Now Danielle Robinson with the basketball. Zealous knocked it away. And here come Canada and Lloyd again. Subbing out Zealous and Whitcomb, giving them a breath of air.
It's good to see Jewel Lloyd healthy. You could tell that she feels good. She's got her legs under her, and she said she feels like she's in better shape now than she was earlier to start the season, even before the injury.
Dantes gets inside. She is into double figures.
What a versatile player. The outside attack from the three, the high post shot, and also down low.
Jewel Lloyd challenging fouls. Not just a jump shooter, able to penetrate.
And this is what you expected to see from Jewel Lloyd when you found out that they were going to be without Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird, that she would lead the charge. And it's been tough because of the injuries.
Dantes single-handedly keeping Minnesota within shouting distance.
And because she's being guarded by Natasha Howard, she's keeping Howard out of help defensively, so she can't disrupt Minnesota on the other end.
Canada misses. Lloyd fouled after the rebound.
You've seen Jewel Lloyd knock down shots from the outside, but don't forget that she has this in her arsenal as well. Another great screen by Mercedes Russell, and Jewel Lloyd just turning the corner and not giving up on a play. This is the kind of energy that you need from your leaders in round one in the winner-go-home game.
Dantes called for her second foul. She goes out. So does Sylvia Fowles and Lexi Brown. Working her way back into the lineup. Simone is 35 years old. Collier from long distance, and a rebound for Canada. He's a good rebounding guard. Esqueda Lewis steps back and hits. And Cheryl Reed wants another timeout. The lead is back to double digits. Megan Rapinoe among those, liking what they're seeing. The Storm on fire.
John Brickley alongside the Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops coming up on the WNBA halftime report presented by State Farm. We'll have first half highlights of the Lynx and the Storm, but earlier, Cheryl, we saw a convincing win orchestrated by the Sky over the Mercury, led by Diamond DeShields.
Yeah, Diamond DeShields was amazing. She led the team 25 points, got it done on both ends of the floor, and looked like the all-star that I think we all know she could be.
And Chicago now advances to the second round to face off with Las Vegas. We will have full highlights and post-game reaction coming up at the half.
All right, Rick. Looking forward to hearing from Cheryl Swoops and John. Second round elimination games coming Sunday. A doubleheader on ESPN2. The winner of this game plays LA at 3 Eastern time. And Chicago will be in Vegas at 5 Eastern time. We will have those games for you. A lot of strength with West Coast teams this year in the W.
Well, with the come up of Vegas making the playoffs this season after not making it last year, things have been tilted just a bit. And in Atlanta, not having a great season. They were representing a little bit for the East last year.
Yes, they did not have a great season. They had the worst record in the league after being 1 win away from the finals last year. Canada, oh, doesn't fall. But the ball still is in the hands, at least momentarily, for Seattle. And now Danielle Robinson pushes it up. Collier fights for the rebound, but can't get it. Odyssey Sims has been on the bench for a long time, and as we say that, she gets it up and will check in at the next whistle. Leading scorer for Minnesota has not scored in this game. In fact, she hasn't even taken a shot in the 6 minutes that she did play in the first quarter.
Seattle is sending traps to Odyssey Sims whenever she comes off a pick and roll. That's made her difficult for her to get into any kind of rhythm.
Around the horn to Robinson. And the backcourt still has not scored for the Lynx, the starting backcourt. Canada had room to shoot, but decided not to. Collier comes up with it. 5 rebounds for Collier to go along with her 5 points. Fouls also will come in with Sims. Augustus. Collier left open. She misses wide right. Minnesota not getting a lot of second chances when they do miss. Howard swishes one. And that is her first basket. They have this formidable lead, and that's just the first points for Howard.
And Minnesota just does not look confident in what they want to do on the offensive end. A lot of second guessing, and pressure will make you do that.
Minnesota has missed 7 straight shots. So Sims and Fouls back in the game. Augustus remains in for Robinson, who is the only starter on the bench right now for the Lynx. Augustus, one of the sweetest mid-range jumpers in the history of this game. Dantes chasing Howard, who found Russell. Boy, they have shared the basketball beautifully tonight. Fouls, rolls to the basket, meets Howard, is double teamed, and still turns and puts it in. She's had to work for every millimeter out there on the floor.
And she's got to be willing to do that. I mean, so what? You fumble it, you keep going, you play through it. When Sylvia Fowles is dialed in, no one can guard her.
Ball stays with Seattle, 8 seconds to shoot. Seattle shooting 55% so far in this game, including 5 of 9 from 3. Shot clock dying. Good defense out there by Collier and Augustus on the perimeter. Be interesting to be able to hear what Cheryl Reeve will say in the locker room at halftime.
I'm sure she's going to have a lot to say, and it's not going to be nice. One thing she told us coming into this game is we got to show up. She was not happy with the way her team performed in their final regular season game against LA. There was something on the line. They were playing for home court.
She said we weren't highly engaged in that team, and she wondered maybe it was the pressure that got to them. Boy, Dantes having a nice game. The pressure of trying to secure home court for this game, and now the pressure of this playoff game with so many pieces that either were not here or did not have a lot of playing time last year for the Lynx. Lloyd on the switch takes it to Dantes, can't score. And now Augustus trying to go coast to coast. Back rims it. Natasha Howard now just 1 of 4 from the floor. Good catch by Collier. And makes the basket with contact.
And that's a play we've seen consistently throughout this season with Collier, because she is often the first player down the floor defensively and offensively. And she can post up a smaller defender like an Alicia Clark, especially when she's in at the 3 position, which she's in at now. She's had to learn the 3 spot, but can cause some matchup problems. And good find by Odyssey Sims as well. She's got to find a way to get involved in this game.
Playoffs continue Sunday with the doubleheader. The winner of this game at Los Angeles at 3 Eastern time on ESPN2, followed by Chicago at Vegas. For more on these games, go to WNBA.com or visit the WNBA app. Minnesota had a foul to give. Foul called on Augustus, her first.
Vegas and Chicago. I mean, what a matchup.
And what a career so far. Only 2 years in for Jordan Canada, right, Kim Adams?
That's right, Pam. And I talked to her about how she's really been able to settle into that starting point guard role. And she told me she's actually leaned on her college experience at UCLA, where she was the starting point guard as just a freshman. And I asked her what she's learned from Sue Bird. And she said the biggest thing Sue has taught her, don't worry about expectations. Don't try and fill the shoes of Sue Bird, and just to play with no pressure. And Jordan also credits her assistant Noelle Quinn, and another Bruin alumni, with how she's been able to develop. But her playoff career high coming into this game was 12. So she has already surpassed that. What a night it's been so far for Jordan Canada.
Well, she's a different type of point guard. You can't be Sue Bird.
Nobody can be Sue Bird, right?
No. Jordan Canada has her own set of gifts. She's got quickness. She's got speed. She can turn the corner.
And do that.
How about that?
Fouls creating the turnover, but boy, talk about learning from the best. When you're being mentored by Sue Bird, who was out with a knee injury this year, has missed the entire season. But Canada is a totally different player with the quickness.
Oh boy.
Augustus has showed up.
Some vintage Simone Augustus, right when her team needs it. And she is calling for her team to step it up.
And what had been a 14-point lead has been cut to 6. Minnesota on a 9-2 run. Seattle takes a timeout. Welcome back. We are in Everett, Washington, about half hour or so north of Seattle, and their fans travel. A great crowd tonight, and they're enjoying what they're seeing so far with the storm up. But Minnesota's made a nice run to get back in this.
Yeah, they have. I mean, Demirs Dantes kind of kept them alive in a stretch. But how about the play of Simone Augustus? They needed to hit some shots so they could get back and get settled defensively, because the transition offense of Seattle is what was hurting them. And they've been able to score and do exactly that.
Minnesota's cut down on its turnovers as well. They had 7 in the first quarter, only 3 here in the second. Crystal Langhorne back in the game, posting up hard. Clark was left open. Collier with the rebound, so Minnesota can get the last points of the half.
Yeah, switch defensively by Minnesota almost really hurt them on that possession.
Augustus, somebody's got to shoot. Sill's not aware. They won't get a shot off. So Seattle led by as many as 14 Well, Minnesota with a 9-2 run in the last 3 minutes. Cheryl Reeves' team is in it, even though, can you believe it? They have gotten nothing from their starting backcourt.
I mean, Odyssey Sims has definitely been stifled offensively, and it's had a lot to do with the defense of Seattle trapping and Jordan Canada as well. But look at how Canada has stepped up on the offensive end. That's been important.
So Jewel's been great. Here she is with Kim Adams.
Jewel, it seems like the court has been a chessboard for you guys in that first half. What's allowed the offense to open up so well?
We're just being really active. I think that helps us a lot when we're moving on both sides of the floor. And tonight we're just trying to stay as active as possible.
And as efficient as you've been offensively, you've matched that intensity on the defensive end. How have you been so efficient there?
It's the playoffs. You know, you got to leave everything on the floor. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, so we got to bring it.
Thanks so much, Jewel.
Thank you.
And they have done that, bringing it so far as they lead it 47-41, shooting 49% from the floor. Stay tuned for the WNBA halftime report presented by State Farm after these messages. John Brickley joined by the Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops.
The WNBA Playoffs 2019 is brought to you by Office Depot Office Max.
That was a look at tonight's power performance brought to you by Beats. We are north of Seattle, Jimi Hendrix' hometown, and the Seattle Storm got off to a great start, but did not have a field goal in the last 3 minutes of the second quarter. Minnesota storming back, and they are only down by 6 in the single elimination game. The winner will play in Los Angeles on Sunday. Pam Ward, along with LaChina Robinson, Kim Adams, is with us as well. And boy, the backcourt of Seattle has been tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, there's a palpable energy in the building from the very beginning of this game. And I feel like Seattle's backcourt really controlled the pace. They used their speed and quickness to get up quickly on the offensive end, get early shots in transition. And Minnesota just was not ready. Whether it's a pick and roll situation or just sharing the basketball. 11 assists on 18 made field goals for the Storm. They've been finding each other, spacing the floor. Their chemistry is so evident and obvious. And it's been led by Jordan Canada and Jewel Lloyd, who have both had big first halves.
And a couple of all-stars who have not looked like themselves. Natasha Howard, who was given the Defensive Player of the Year award right before the game, and Sylvia Fowles, not exactly what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, Natasha Howard got into some foul trouble, so you kind of understand coming in and out of the game that she couldn't get a rhythm. But establishing Sylvia Fowles, we talked about that throughout the game, and not just for the offense of Minnesota, but because it helps their defense. That's why they were able to go on that run in the second quarter, because they scored and got back and got their defense set.
Meanwhile, the backcourt for Minnesota was shut out in the first half. Sims and Robinson combining for just 3 shots, all of them from D-Rob. And Cheryl Reeve, the head coach for Minnesota, with the same starting 5 that we saw at the beginning of the game. And still, this Minnesota team was down by as many as 14. You know who gave him a shot in the arm was Simone Augustus off the bench.
Yeah, if it was not for Simone Augustus and Damiris Dantes, the Lynx would have been in big trouble. Those two players anchored the offense in the first half.
Canada missing. Seattle cooling off after a torrid start, shooting-wise, in this game. Fisa Collier, the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. Sims still looking for her first shot of the game. Try to get inside to Fowles, who kept it alive. Sims hustled to get it and was fouled. So an opportunity for Sims to finally get on the score sheet.
Well, one thing that Minnesota has done that's hurt them in terms of their turnovers is they're waiting too long to make that pass. Seattle's a team that they will sit and watch your eyes and look where you want to go with the basketball. And they got to get it in quickly to Sil or try a bounce pass. But too much air under it right now. As you see right here, it's Odyssey Sims trying to create some spacing, and Sil's doing a great job of asking for the ball, but you got to give it to her in places where she's got an angle she can go and get it. And that's what Cheryl Reeve talked about in shoot around, is put the ball where Sylvia has to go and get it.
Sims with her first point of the night. She had a season-high 30 points earlier this year against the same Seattle team. Howard with the look inside to Canada.
And that's what Seattle has been doing so well in the first half, is moving without the basketball. We heard Jewel Lloyd talk to Kim Adams about that at half, is that they're staying active. And Minnesota has to keep their head on a swivel.
Fouls guarded by Russell. Got some help from Lloyd, who almost got the turnover, but fouls nicely turned away.
And middle seems to be there for Sylvia Fowles. They're anticipating she wants to go to that right hand, and she's got to be ready to go either way and read that double team.
5-point game, and then a two-handed, looked like a volleyball block by Fowles on Lloyd's attempt.
You've got Natasha Howard, who is this year's Defensive Player of the Year, but Sylvia Fowles knows something about that award. And that's the kind of activity that Cheryl Reed wanted to see from her team. That's engagement.
Remember, the Lynx were annoyed and angry, actually, that Fowles was not even on the first or second all-defensive teams voted on by the coaches.
Well, one thing I think that the defensive awards does not always take into consideration is tips, deflections, how you discourage offense. Those things count as well.
Sims did a good job to rid herself of the defenders, but then couldn't finish. Alicia Clark, a very good defender herself, has not scored yet. Very unselfish basketball. Howard gave it up to Russell.
And it started with a great screen.
Lead is back to 9. Minnesota timeout.
Minnesota in trouble right now because they are allowing Seattle to control the pace, their aggressiveness, how they're coming off the screens. They're feeling it.
The Lynx in the sports, and another game 5 is underway. Fouls, spins in, and finishes. Another offensive rebound for Fouls at the finish. That's it. Title number 4 for the Minnesota Lynx dynasty. Brianna Stewart and the Storm are looking to end things tonight. Stewart lays it in. 30 points for Stewart. Seattle Storm have climbed back to the mountaintop. They are your 2018 WNBA champions.
So the last two WNBA champions are in the building. Seattle winning last year, their third. Minnesota has 4 of them. But both of these teams playing without key components. Sue Bird, the best point guard maybe in the history of this league, and Brianna Stewart, who was only the MVP last year, who went out with the Achilles injury while playing overseas.
And what both of these teams are missing just leads you to the fact that Cheryl Reed and Dan Hughes has done a fantastic job. Too easy there for Mercedes Russell, but there was no panic for either Cheryl or Dan. No lowering of expectations, and they handled crisis management well, including injuries, players sitting out, roster turnover, all of it.
6-0 run after Minnesota got to within 5. Fouls, strong to the basket to silence this crowd, at least momentarily. Sylvia now into double figures.
And Odyssey Sims has that strength. She can get 2 feet in the paint and make plays. She's got to look to attack more.
Rare turnover for Jordan Canada. That's the 3rd foul on Howard. We talked about what Seattle is missing, but Minnesota, Lindsay Whalen, what can you say? Maya Moore resting this season. Rebecca Brunson not coming back with concussion syndromes. I mean, that's a lot of talent there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And, you know, think about the way Seattle started their season. Dan Hughes gets a cancer diagnosis. Brianna Stewart has a torn Achilles. Then there's no Sue Bird. You're moving facilities. I mean, the resilience of Seattle and the way that they just kept on ticking. Good basket there by Collier. But Seattle is a team of underdogs. That's how they look at themselves. You know, they've got players that have been underestimated, and they're here to prove a point.
Not much was expected of them with all of the missing pieces this year. And they still got into the playoffs. There's a foul on Seattle. 4 fouls now on Natasha Howard. 4 fouls and only 2 points. And we got to give so much credit to Dan Hughes, one of the really good guys in this game. As you mentioned, he was diagnosed with cancer in April, had surgery in mid-May, has come back. And what a season he and his assistants have crafted with the guile and the guts of these players. Minnesota with the exact same record as last year, 18-16, which was Seattle's record this year as well. Collier left open. Alicia Clark, her first points of the night. And then Clark draws a foul on the other end.
Some frustration there from Nafisa Collier as she was trying to get open. But on the other end, Alicia Clark is #1 in the WNBA three-point field goal percentage. And Minnesota does not communicate and close out defensively.
Talk about resiliency. Alicia Clark could be the poster child for that. She was taken by San Antonio back in 2010, was cut not once but twice by that franchise, stuck with it, played overseas, and has turned into a really good WNBA player.
Well, she had to make a similar transition as we're seeing with Nafisa Collier from the 4 to the 3, and that's not easy to do. But this season, career high in points, rebounds, three-point field goal percentage, assists. She's having a brilliant season.
Dantes gets the rebound. Simone Augustus is back in, and she gave Minnesota a much-needed shot in the arm when she came in back in the first half. And Simone Augustus, as Jordan makes a new friend in the front row. When Augustus was out, Minnesota was -11. When Simone was in the first half, +5 in scoring. Big difference. She's back in. She gets the ball. And it just wouldn't go down. Canada. What a reverse! Crowd was so loud he had trouble hearing the whistle. But Jordan Canada is quick.
Well, Simone Augustus is the queen of the crossover, but Jordan Canada's got one of her own. Gets her with the head fake as if she's going to take that little jump shot, and the Hezzy gets her enough space and just goes right to the rim.
The Hezzy?
The Hezzy.
Is it Hezzetito?
Hezzetito.
First foul on Jordan Canada. Collier double team, fights through it, and has a chance for a three-point play.
There's a physical battle happening right now between Collier and Clark, and I love the fact that Collier is not backing down. Clark, one of the toughest defenders. Clark was looking for the offensive foul call. Collier just keeps that steady balance and gets straight to the rim. And one thing I think is underappreciated is her footwork.
Second foul on Clark. Collier led the WNBA in minutes played. He had a spectacular rookie year. The team down 9. Whistle away from the ball, and I think they're going to get Fagbenle, yes, for a hold. Temmie's second. .16 seconds to shoot. Clark inbounds in front of the Lynx bench. Russell recovers. Single digits. Whitcomb's going to have to shoot. Now Langhorne,
who is taking more threes this season. That's a shot that she has more confidence in making this year than she has ever in her career.
Lang has made 18 threes this year. She only had 8 in her first 11 years. 8 successful threes. Single digits for Augustus on the shot clock. Here comes Simone. A little bit short.
Minnesota still lacking that organization on the offensive end.
Both Robinson and Sims on the bench. The starting guards for Minnesota having off nights. Canada goes lefty on Lexi Brown.
No one can keep 2 shoulders in front of Jordan Canada. I mean, it's been a problem.
Smothering defense. Brown lost the ball, but that opened up the lane for Collier.
I mean, Jordan Canada is getting to the middle of the floor where there's no help.
Jordan has 21 points tonight. That ties her season and career high in scoring. Whitcomb had her shot blocked by Fagbenle.
Just once again, I mean, Lexi Brown is a capable defender here, but just opens up too much there. See, she's given her the left, and it's hard to help in that situation. The floor is spread, and Seattle can hit the 3.
Have to shoot. Langhorne had it partially blocked by Collier. So that's another shot clock violation for Seattle. Collier, she just keeps going.
There's no fear. I mean, Nafisa Collier will not back down from the challenge, and she said herself before, she said, my game isn't necessarily the prettiest, but it's effective. And it's been consistently efficient this year.
Collier has Minnesota's last 7 points. Minnesota extended. Collier spins on Langhorne and then found Russell in her face. Talbot with the follow.
Play through Collier. I feel like Minnesota's been searching for a player to play through consistently all night, and she's making good decisions right now.
Benley came over to cover up a mistake. Collier left open, makes them pay. Lisa Collier now with 16 points and 9 rebounds. It's a 6-0 Minnesota run.
Is she really a rookie? She's not playing like it. Nafisa Collier giving her team quality baskets, quality minutes on the road. She doesn't want to go home.
Welcome back. Nafisa Collier is just had a spectacular rookie season, and Simone Augustus in her 14th year has nothing but kind words to say about the Rook. Saying, you're going to be the Roy, the Rookie of the Year. That's the way it's going to be. From here, we'll have expectations to carry this team on, take this team, this franchise, everything. I am passing the torch, grooming her to take over this team.
I mean, that's huge. Coming from Simone Augustus, who has spent her entire career building what we know now as the dynasty of the Minnesota Lynx. And it's clear that day to day she's seeing something in Nafisa Collier. She's seeing greatness behind the scenes in practice and how she prepares and her mental toughness. So we get a snippet of it here, but for a future Hall of Famer like Simone Augustus to say, I'm passing the torch to you, that's huge.
Like Benley hustles to get the offensive rebound. Not quite sure when that torch will be passed, when Augustus will retire. She said she is still deciding about her future. She is on a 1-year contract that expires at the end of this season.
And it's no secret that she hasn't felt at her best. I mean, she was telling us about all the procedures she's had to get done to her knees, the drainage and so on. And that's what makes her performance tonight and what she's trying to do will this team that much more impressive.
Collier dribbling through the lane and then turning around and hitting a shot.
She's calling her own number. Why not? Take over then, Rook.
3-point ball game. Minnesota, which has looked at times really bad in this game, is only down by 3. fighting back. It's about a 1.5 seconds difference between the two clocks. Russell hits it. Just under 6 seconds. Lexi Brown driving to the basket. She got stuffed by Mosqueda Lewis. But Nafisa Collier had 11 of Minnesota's last 13 points to make this a ball game.
She's doing everything she can, but the number one thing she's doing is she's being aggressive. No back down, no fear. In her first playoff game, Nafisa Collier put it all on the line.
Coach Dan Hughes, coach defense has been back to Everett Washington, joined here by Seattle head coach Dan Hughes. Coach, defense has been the identity of this team all year. What needs to be sharp in this final 10 minutes?
Well, we've got to get matched up. You know, they've had some ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the spots we don't want them to get to. But the other thing is rebounding, you know, us being able to get a block out and finish the play.
How have your guards been able to score at such a high rate tonight?
Well, I think the pace. I think the pace is in our favor, and we want to push it. And I think that's created opportunities for them.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Well, and to Dan Hughes' point about their defense, because Natasha Howard has been in that foul trouble, she hasn't had the freedom to help and possibly be matched up against an Nafisa Collier in that situation to cool her down.
Howard has played less than 17 minutes, just has 2 points, and 4 personal fouls. She is on the floor again. Sims and Robinson still on the bench. Augustus chases it down and then got fouled by Zealous. Check out ESPN's women's basketball podcast, Around the Rim, with the one and only LaChina Robinson. New episodes weekly on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. What do we have?
A little playoff special. Myself and two-time WNBA champion Devereaux Peters and our producer Tarika Foster-Brasby. We basically argue about the playoffs for the entire episode. And we have Arike Ogunbowale on as a guest.
She had a decent year for the Dallas Wings.
You think?
Winner of this game plays in LA on Sunday. Chicago goes to Vegas. Washington and Connecticut just waiting to play in the semis. Minnesota now, this is the closest this game has been since it was 5-4. Good save by Zealous. Shot clock at 4. Zealous elevates, big. The 11th year veteran out of Pitt. Takes the lead back to 5.
We talked about Natasha Howard's ability to just go get a bucket. Well, Zealous is one of those players that also one-on-one can just find the rim, got a great mid-range pull-up. And it again.
Yep, back to back. Seattle has responded. Every time Minnesota has gotten close, they've gone on a little run. And there's a push in the back. Zealous.
Past the fact that Sue Bird is not on the roster, the next player that has playoff experience and has been in these battles is Shavonte Zealous. I mean, she's a veteran in this league. She's a WNBA champion. And so in these moments where things get shaky and Minnesota has gone on a run, Dan Hughes calling her number.
Talbot blocked by the defensive player of the year, Natasha Howard, who saves it in.
Howard cleans up so many things defensively for Seattle.
3rd in the league in blocks this year. Whitcomb blocked from behind, defended from behind by her fellow Aussie, Talbot, and still got it to go. And just like that, the 3-point lead balloons to 10.
You got a little Shavonte Zealous. You got some defense from Natasha Howard, and Sammy Whitcomb with the quick release off the screen. It's too late.
So the Seattle Storm with a 7-0 run in the last minute after Minnesota was nipping at their heels, just down 3. The winner again will play Los Angeles on Sunday afternoon. One more single elimination round before we go to the semifinals.
I'm just impressed with the depth of contributions for Seattle. Everyone that's checked in has been ready to give them something, no matter if it's late in the game, the way Sammy Whitcomb and Javonte Zellis have, or from the very tip with Jordan Canada and Jewel Lloyd.
And this is what we are facing. Sparks play first at 3 Eastern time on Sunday against the winner of this game, and then the Sky, behind 25 points from Diamond to Shields, beat Phoenix to play in Vegas.
And it came down to the end of the regular season on who would have that final 4th position and not have to play in the single elimination game. And Vegas got some extra time to rest and some time to practice.
Dantas.
So undervalued in this league is Damaris Dantas. And I know she's been injured, but what she can do at her size and frame with both power and finesse impresses me every time she hits the floor.
Missed 4 weeks this year with a strained calf. Missed a lot of time last year with a knee issue. He's been on the Brazilian Olympic team. There she is. Lobbing it inside. Trying to get it to fouls. It stays with Minnesota. 13 seconds to shoot.
I understand Odyssey Sims wants to get Dantas the ball because she's been effective, but that only works if Sims is being aggressive herself on the offensive end, and she's going to need to do that.
Sims has taken 2 shots and missed them both. She has 1 point in this game. Fouls. Russell just came back into the game. Sylvia left it short, but stuck with it.
She's not been afraid to go left. Seattle has played her thinking she wants to go strong to the right side, and she has started to really adjust.
Howard took a step. Lloyd, Canada, and Clark coming back in for Seattle. 3 starters who've been on the bench for a spell. Not going to let Canada and Lloyd come in, but they let Clark come in. Lloyd and Canada combining for 36 points tonight. Brown on the switch, guarded by Howard. Another lob in. Howard recovered to at least get close to fouls, but she still scored.
Not much Howard can do with that foul trouble in the situation, but let Sylvia have a bucket.
Brown stopped the scoring drive of Whitcomb. Now Canada and Lloyd come in for Whitcomb and Zellis. So this starting 5 back out there for Seattle. When we come back, Storm up 4.
The WNBA Playoffs 2019 is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. And Taco Bell's $5 triple-double crunch wrap box.
NBA Enterprises may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise used in any form without the express written consent of WNBA Enterprises.
Tomorrow morning, the U.S. is back in action at the FIBA World Cup with a consolation game against Serbia at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on ESPN+. Then after that, it's Poland and the Czech Republic. To get ESPN+, go to espnplus.com, download the app. You can watch anywhere. Let's listen in to Dan Hughes.
Let's get a good matchup. I know. Get a good matchup when we see who they got. Got it? Start the quarter right here on defense. Right here on defense.
Dan Hughes as Minnesota had a 6-0 run to get close once again.
And he's reminding this team that, hey, we got to hang our hats on the defensive end, because when Minnesota doesn't score, what does that mean? They can get into that pace that he talked to Kim about and get down and get that early offense.
Drew Lloyd, fouled by Odyssey Sims, gets 1 out of 2. And he's talked about late in the season identifying where his team could get better, and the number one thing was pace. Pushing it out of defense and offense. Lexi Brown getting extended minutes. Danielle Robinson struggling on the bench. And they don't get it off, do they?
And that's the story of what has happened with Minnesota in this game. Not organized, not really knowing where they want to get to, no awareness of the shot clock.
Minnesota had 7 turnovers in the first quarter, has really cleaned it up. In fact, that was their first turnover in the last 13 minutes. But shot clock violation, especially when you're down 5, not good. Augustus got her hand in the passing lane. Minnesota team also dealing with a couple of injuries during the season. Jess Shepard tore her ACL in June. Prima Christmas Kelly had right knee surgery in July. They are both on the end of the bench and both celebrating birthdays today.
Happy birthday, y'all.
Oh boy, Shepard was off to a good start.
Yes, she was.
Shot clock skinny again. Canada on Augustus, but Clark hustled to keep it alive. Jewel Lloyd. So smooth. $18 for Lloyd. Now Lloyd is holding on, looks like to her arm or her midsection in pain. And fouls, ties it up.
Pretty sure that her wrist or hand area made contact with Simone Augustus' face.
And Augustus also, as you mentioned, she is shaken up.
Right here, Simone's coming off of the screen, and oh, it might have actually been Syl. I'm not sure who got Augustus. Oh, yeah, well, it was. It was that right arm area of Jewel Lloyd that got crunched in between the screen and hit Simone Augustus in the face. That's not good if your arm is hurting. That tells you how hard she hit Simone's face. Simone's face got the brunt of that.
And Augustus goes out to try to pull herself together. Collier tips it to Brown. Talbot, who just came in for Augustus, they throw it away. They've been playing clean basketball, but a couple of turnovers in the last minute. Howard gets it out to Lloyd. Inside 4 minutes to go. Fouls with the block. But then Jewel Lloyd, who was on the court, was able to tie it up.
There's just been a hunger, a relentlessness from Seattle since the tip. They want it more. And this is the type of play from Jewel Lloyd. It gets this crowd going. She's not giving up on it. She has looked healthy and more like herself down the stretch of the regular season, and we're seeing that bleed into the first round of these playoffs. And that's everything. I mean, yes, you have Natasha Howard, who has been fantastic, but everyone needs a compliment. And that person has rotated, and who's filled those shoes has been different on different nights for Seattle, but we know how much of a talent Jewel Lloyd is and what she's capable of.
Yeah, coming back from that injury, she said it's the first time in her career she's ever been out for an extended period of time, and it took her a while to get her confidence back. Alicia Clark forces the turnover. So Nafisa Collier has done her job, but it's been the story of the backcourt. Jordan Canada and Jewel Lloyd have been tremendous. Look at that.
And they've been dominant over Sims and Robinson. And honestly, Sims and Danielle Robinson haven't been on the floor to defensively try to contain Lloyd and Canada. And that's been a big issue, too. You've had different players for Minnesota trying to come in and defend. When that's what you would want from a D-Rob or the pressure of an Odyssey Sims. but they've just been out of it, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, Robinson finally back into the game. That foul was on Canada, her second. Danielle Robinson with the ball. And when we talked to Cheryl Reeve, she said Robinson's play was key tonight, and she has not been very good. And another turnover. Four straight turnovers for the Lynx.
And you got to credit Seattle. They have been the aggressor.
Take a timeout with Minnesota down 7. Don't miss your chance to catch your favorite players, teams, and the continued WNBA playoffs action in person. Get your tickets today at WNBA.com/tickets. Megan Rapinoe among the fans here in Seattle enjoying especially the defense.
The pressure has been unbearable at times for Minnesota coming from the Seattle Storm. They've been physical, pesky, disruptive. They have really dictated everything that Minnesota has done to the point where they're not being aggressive and not looking for shots on offense. And that's been consistent. And even in stretches where Minnesota has been able to gather themselves offensively, Seattle always comes back with a defensive run. How many teams can you say they make a defensive run, not on offense?
Drew Lloyd hits them both. Seattle led the league in opponents' points per game, lead the league in steals. They have 9 tonight. Minnesota's gone over 3 minutes now without scoring. It's only their second shot during that time. Collier can't get it away from Russell, and they're starting to feel it here in Everett. Dan Hughes has his starters back in. And now an offensive foul against Russell.
And Mercedes Russell quickly turns the officials and makes sure they know that it was her and not Natasha Howard.
Howard been playing with 4 fouls.
I don't know. It looked like a pretty good screen. But Odyssey Sims may have tripped. Couldn't see her feet from that angle, but it looked like a steady screen from Russell.
Simone Augustus is back in for the Lynx. Fouls, double teamed. Tried to get the shot off. Dantes. The drought continues. Inside 2 minutes. Canada with 5 seconds on the shot clock. Gives it up to Russell. One more pass. Clark, short. Collier has it taken away. And now Jordan Canada doing something we usually don't see her do, and that's slow things down. Minnesota has gone scoreless in 9 straight possessions. Cut the lead to 3, and they've been sitting on 67 for a while.
Well, the thing that Seattle has done defensively is, well, first of all, Minnesota is not hitting from the three-point line. So that's allowed them to crowd the paint, to take away looks for Sylvia, to send several players to her, to take away looks for Odyssey Sims. But they've also made Minnesota play fast.
Now Clark picks up 2 quick fouls. She's now got 4.
I love this battle between Collier and Clark. Neither giving up an inch. And that says a lot to Collier that Clark is defending her, one of the best in the league, and taking it personally.
Minnesota takes the timeout with 1:11 left to go. They are down by 9 points and have gone almost 5 minutes without a point. Team that went 18-16 during the regular year, making the playoffs for 9 straight seasons. Cheryl Reed, the only head coach to ever take a team to the playoffs 9 years in a row. But right now, Minnesota's on the ropes. They've gotten cold at the very worst time.
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl Reed is the one that told us that you found out a lot about your team when you're in a pressure situation and how they respond. And when you don't have pieces that have been together and players that are familiar with each other, this is where you can see what's happening now with Minnesota. And they just look off tonight, and you have to credit Seattle for that, and that they have made them play a style of basketball that they did not want to play, and that is trying to defend in transition. Seattle has used their quickness and speed to their advantage. And Seattle, on the other hand, the same situation with a new configuration, but they have played with more togetherness, and more open and selfless style of basketball, and have stuck to the defensive game plan.
It's remarkable with both Brianna Stewart, the MVP, and Sue Bird out this year, that Seattle has relied on the quickness and the defense. Mercedes Russell with a great breakthrough season after she had limited playing time last year as a rookie. Jordan Canada is too fast. A new career high, 23 points for Canada. 10-point lead. It was 71-67 5 minutes ago.
And Alicia Clark is not giving up an inch. Gotta love her grit.
She has become the vocal leader on this team with Bird out. She set a new personal record with threes this year and was second team all defensive. Jordan Canada on the first team, and Natasha Howard, the defensive player of the year.
It's hard when your defense doesn't know who to focus in on or who to key in on. You may come into this game saying, we're going to slow down Natasha Howard. Well, she hasn't been a big factor. But the balance and the variety of offensive contributions from Seattle has been impressive, Pam, especially in a playoff situation.
How about Natasha Howard leading this team? 18 points a game. She's got 2 points. And they're still up double digits and less than a minute away from a meeting with Los Angeles on Sunday. The first field goal for Minnesota in a long time, Dantes. Natasha Howard's season low was 6 points. She's only got 2 tonight. 1 of 4 from the floor. Does have 6 rebounds and 6 assists.
And she has been impactful defensively. She's been active, and she is in the top 5 in this league in both steals and blocks, but she does much more than that. She impacts the way teams run their offense and things that don't show up on the stat sheet. So she has been a factor.
Canada at the free throw line after the Robinson foul, building on her career high. The previous, she scored 21 against Atlanta during the regular season.
Just impressive, Jordan Canada.
Yeah, the poise that she has in the backcourt, and she plays at such a great pace. But now the backcourt scoring, Seattle outscoring Minnesota starting backcourt 44-1.
Well, Dan Hughes said one thing we need to do if we want to have success down the stretch of the regular season, the playoffs, control the pace. And Jordan Canada has a lot to do with that. The way that she is aggressive in transition. She's looking for early scores for her team, but she's just also hit some shots and some tough ones at that. But she's kept her head up. She's run this team, and that's been the difference, that she has run this team so well, setting the tone offensively and defensively. What a showing.
Just her second year out of UCLA. Terrific numbers. She has a career high 24 points. Jewel Lloyd has 20. So 44 points for the starting backcourt. Minnesota starting backcourt of Robinson and Sims, 1 point.
And 1 turnover for Jordan Canada, as much as she handles the basketball.
So look at these numbers. It's staggering.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when you look at the way that Jewel Lloyd played down the stretch of the regular season, you might expect that she would shoot the ball well. But Jordan Canada's confidence has continued to build in her shot, and she's had a lot to do with why Odyssey Sims struggled as well. So it's both ends of the floor for those two, and nothing really for Minnesota's backcourt, nothing consistently. They just have not been aggressive in asserting themselves tonight.
Odyssey Sims did not take a shot from the floor in the first half. Robinson, no field goal attempts in the second half. I mean, that's staggering. They've only taken 5 shots between them.
And against pressure, like Seattle's going to bring, you have to have guards that will attack that will make the defense pay.
Seattle's defense has been their bread and butter all season. They forced another one. 7 turnovers now in the last 5 minutes, coinciding with just 1 made field goal for the Lynx. And Jordan Canada back at the line to try to salt this game away. Seattle on their way to play in Los Angeles Sunday afternoon. LA beat Seattle 2 of the 3 times that they played during the regular season. As we take a look at Simone Augustus, we wonder what her future will be. 35 years of age, her contract over with, and has really been one of the best players in this league.
Yeah, I mean, she's a future Hall of Famer and really changed the way players played the game with her crossover, how she could get her own shot, that mid-range game. But we talked to Sue Bird earlier, and one of the things that stands out the most about Simone is she realized that you can't do it all yourself, and she stepped aside for Amaya Moore and the rest of the talent that would join the Minnesota Lynx, and they won 4 championships.
And one thing that Sue said about Simone was she credited her because this is someone who could have averaged 20 points a game, such a good scorer, but she dialed that back, became more of a team player so they could win championships. She's got 4 rings. And Sue also said when they played together on the national team and won all those gold medals, he said, as soon as Simone checked in, I threw it to Simone, right? You get her the ball.
That's right, get her the ball, because she can go get buckets. And again, we don't know what will happen. This is the last year on her contract, but one of the greats.
Stephanie Talbot hits from long range. But the Seattle Storm, weathering some storms. Minnesota got close, and every time Seattle pushed back. The Storm have won by 10, and they have a date in Los Angeles Sunday afternoon.